Good to see everybody. Again, this day is always a good reminder that this is a special place. To have this many people covering college baseball, it's not like this everywhere else. And very thankful for what you guys do and the exposure that you give our program and make it a place that's really not out there anywhere else. So thank you for the good work. I've enjoyed, getting to know you guys and appreciate what you do covering our team. Great fall in terms of where we're at, leading into the season. A couple of things I did want to highlight, in running a total program. We had some really good marks that were hit. I think we broke the program record for grade point average with over a 3.2 GPA. I know we had 32 of the 40 players, achieved a 3.0 or better. Something I'm, very proud of in terms of the work that they put in. Thankful to our academic staff. And usually, it's maybe not a straight line, parallel, but when your team handles things the way that they should off the field, sometimes things go better on the field. And so proud of the team for that. Other improvements in the program, notably two things. We hired Chris Martin from the Houston Astros, did a great job with the strength and conditioning program this fall. We've had turnover in that position every year and, really looking for something really specific in that job. And he just has a completeness to what he does. He's obviously really intelligent, highly skilled, knows the application of weight room to on-the-field baseball performance. And rather than talk a lot about that, I think you'll see some of it with, we don't have a high number of returning players, but some of them look different physically, move better, and that's a testament to Chris's work. And he's terrific at player relationships, like I said, knowledge base, work ethic, buy-in, commitment. That's been a real positive. In terms of something I feel great about, I feel like we have obviously the most continuity in the coaching staff since I've been here. When you have success, people get to move on to other opportunities, which is great, and very happy for those guys that have been here and have gotten to do that. But having a pretty much stable staff, for a second year, really for the first time, I think our players will benefit from that. And when you have as much transition as we have with our roster, with as many guys going to professional baseball as we have, I think this was a really good year to have some, staff continuity, and very thankful, for the assistant coaches. Nate Yeske in his second year as a pitching coach, who I believe, if you go back over the last 20 years, he is the best pitching coach in all of college baseball. We had a second year together at Arizona, which was highly successful. I think the whole flow of the pitching staff has gone better, this year, and it's not to say it didn't go good last year with as many pitchers drafted as we had, but feel great about that. Josh Jordan obviously does a great job as our recruiting coordinator. I think if you look at, our recruiting classes, 24, 25, 26, with guys that are verbally committed, we're obviously having a lot of success, and a lot of that's due to Josh's hard work and does a great job coaching third base and the catchers. Bringing Josh Simpson back. He was at the University of Georgia last year. He was on our staff with the 23 national championship as excellent player relationships, and really good to have him back in the building, and has been a good asset. And then obviously Mark Wanaka, who's been with me forever. Jamie Tutko, big contributor to what we're doing. So I feel great about where we're at from a staff standpoint, and just kind of moving forward with where we're at right now. We'll have 18 practices over the next 21 days leading into opening day. We'll scrimmage about 12 or 13 times, including each of the next 4 days. There's things we have to be mindful of returning to play. It's been a good start since we've been back, getting kind of our pathway to success, or what we believe success for this team is, outlined. We've had some challenges, obviously, with the weather, very unusual, but another shout out to our field crew. I mean, that place looks beautiful out there today, and we're excited to get out there. And did not look like that on Tuesday, as we all know. So really looking forward to what's to come, there. Just a little bit of an outlook on the team. Like I mentioned, I don't know that we're a young team, but we're a very new team. We have 12 players that actually played in a game for us last year. in 2024. And that doesn't feel like a high number to me. So when you think about all that new, I'm excited, to put the collective group together, get all in one dugout instead of splitting in scrimmages, and compete together. We have a lot to figure out still relative to where we're going from a personnel standpoint, at least at the outset of this. And then the goal is to win as many games as we can, or win every game, while figuring out what that best team looks like. And I would say it's not really any different this year. Maybe a few more unknowns, just because of the newness of the team. But very excited about the pieces. And, like I said, the players have done a good job, been very coachable, and, really excited to get into the next 3 weeks.
You mentioned trying to find success for this team. What does success look like? And is it broken into parts, given like the challenges that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I think you have to identify. I think you have a program, and what are the standards of the program? And we've been very consistent with those, since we've been here. For example, being very fundamentally sound, and when you think about the ceiling that your team can reach, it's often determined by close games, and close games are determined by fundamentals. And so, doing those common things in baseball, in a really uncommon way, like that will always be a staple. Being highly competitive, valuing winning, and honoring what this has been about, long before I was here, and will be about long after I'm here. I've always want our supporters to feel like it's more important to us than it is to the guys in the third base dugout. And so, really, emphasizing the competitiveness, and then having guys with great character, and I think that like academic performance is certainly a reflection of that. But, what is character? And that's decision making and ability to make decisions, that are more in line with being a man than a little boy, and, much to your surprise, sometimes doesn't always go perfect with 18 to 22-year-old males, and you have to develop those things. But those are staples. But then looking forward to this year, what do we need to do? And it may not seem that different, but you have a lot of guys that'll be doing things for the first time, whether that's playing at LSU for the first time or operating in a new position on the team. They have to have the toughness, or the mental toughness, to be very present, be, awesome at being where their feet are, or really locked into the moment or the task at hand. And when you have all these things, coming at you over a 69, 70 game season, that's a challenge, so their ability to be able to do that, the ability to overcome adversity, another element of toughness. And, the only thing I can guarantee our team is we are going to have adversity. When you play in this league, in this conference, at the top of college baseball, the quality of players that, we get to play against, there will be adversity, and their responses and their ability to maintain toughness and do that is important. The toughness to focus on what matters, in society today, especially for young people, that can get confusing, and what is relevant, and the toughness to focus on what's relevant, which is, how we prepare and how we play and how we train. So, really, I think that will be critical. And then the togetherness piece, of team, over self. When you look at the players that come to LSU, they're all very highly individually accomplished before coming into our program. And when you get here, you don't always know, or they don't always know, that you look out here and what was this built on? This was built on great players just like them that had to take that step in maturity and placing the needs of the team above their own. And so that's always going to be a thing. But I think it's really a thing this year when you talk about, 12 players that played in a game. You talk about, 10 freshmen, who are really talented and good players. And they're going to be kind of the next wave of real guys here, if you will. And then, we had to do more in the transfer portal this year because we've had so much success moving players to professional baseball. So you have that, and then you have the execution part of baseball. What do you need to do from the mound? What do you need to do defensively as an offensive team running the bases, and collectively. And so we have those things outlined, and how we prepare throughout the season is all to hit, or in the preseason is all to hit those targets. And I told the coaches, we haven't been on the field a lot because of weather. We're not going to be the greatest team ever because of what happens today. The focus has to be improvement tomorrow. And again, a really boring concept, but we have a lot of work to do before we're ready to go win a Division I baseball game.
Coach, right here. With Stephen Milam, you've already talked about moving him to the left side of the infield a few times. Is shortstop just the better fit for him than third base, just given his quickness and speed out there combined with the arm, or is third base a real option for him too?
Yeah, I think we need to find that out. Circumstances in the fall didn't allow us to figure that out. He missed half the fall. He missed the entire summer outside of one game because of an injury, which Steven deserves a lot of credit for playing through that. And we all know the big homers he had last year. He had a small stress fracture in his foot while that was going on, and really showed a lot of physical toughness to get through that. But right about the time we decided we were really going to look at that, he went out with an illness, and so we need these 3 weeks to kind of figure that out. The plan, as is to probably split the time between the two spots and then figure it out. And I would like to have a better answer for you, but I would be short-circuiting what makes us the best team by assuming, that we do. I think he is a great defensive player, and I think if you played him at shortstop, third base, or obviously second base, he would do a great job. I've gone on record and saying I think he's probably the best defensive infielder that we have, and you may see us roll him over to the right side of the bag when certain hitters are up, like we did with Jordan Thompson in 2023. So I think of it like basketball a little bit. Like, doesn't the best defender guard the guy that scores all the time? So in baseball, like, why wouldn't you put one of your better guys where they're going to hit it the most? And so little outside the box maybe, but that's where my head's at right now.
Yeah, Coach, when you're kind of deciding the catcher situation, you got 4 different options that could potentially play there. What is the kind of the challenge, I guess, of deciding whether it's going to be matchup-based or pitcher-based on which guy plays which day, and just maybe talk a little bit about who is going to be, who you're going to really count on that catcher this year? Yeah.
First off, I mentioned Coach Jordan. He does an exceptional job with the catchers, and the one thing I know is they're a lot better today than they were August 26th or whatever day we started school in the fall. And I have a lot of confidence in that group, and it's probably something that will be sorted out. When you ask what I'm looking for is what is winning in baseball? It's scoring runs and it's preventing runs. So what's our best path to having the right guy in the at-bats when the catcher comes up to help us score more runs and then obviously prevent runs? And at that position, really important, because other than the balls put in play, they touch the ball every single pitch. The game's built around strikes and balls. Well, the catcher has a lot of say in that. So it's about who's going to help us on those things. Now, with the group specifically, really pleased with Luis Hernandez. When you see a guy that hit 23 homers, has a bunch of at-bats coming from a great program. Indiana State's a great program. I think they were in a super regional a couple years ago, and he was a mainstay on that team. I mean, that experience is really, really valuable, and we were fortunate his coach took another job at another school, so he decided to go to the portal. Then he got through the draft. Well, the unknown was he didn't catch a lot last year because they had a ridiculously good defensive catcher, but he's exceeded all of my expectations and where he's at defensively, and we think obviously we see a really good hitter in there, and he'll use his experience as a benefit in that regard. Kade Arambidi, as a freshman, really pleased to get Kade here. That was a draft situation where, had he had maybe a lower opinion of himself in terms of financial ask, he would not be at LSU right now. And he had an outstanding fall. I mean, I think he hit over 360 or right at 360. The bats were way more professional than you would anticipate for somebody that hasn't had exposure to this level of play. He's obviously got power. Again, the arm strength is really jumps off the page at you. The two outside games against Samford and Louisiana Lafayette, this is always my sign of a good catcher, is you don't even know or remember who's playing back there. That's how it felt. Like he was very in control of the game. And, against Coach Deggs and Louisiana Lafayette, that's the most chaotic offense. And I mean that as a compliment in college baseball. And he did a great job there. So he's well out ahead of maybe where you would think he would be. And I think working with Coach Jordan, there's tremendous, tremendous upside there. Blaze Priester had a really, really, really good fall offensively. I think he hit like 7 home runs. I don't know how many that is like per plate appearances. I thought at the end of the fall he made a nice jump, and his at-bats in between home runs were much better. And when you face the pitching that we face, you're really looking for that. And I'm proud of him. He was here my first year because the catching situation was very uncertain at that time. And it was in his best interest to go to a junior college, and he went to Meridian and had 2 really good years and really improved behind the plate. He put a lot of work in over the break, and fine-tuning some things. He actually, good story, went out to Houston and worked with former LSU catcher Tim Lanier, for a couple days and worked on some things. So those 3 are probably at the lead. Eddie Yaman can also catch. The plan will be over the scrimmages is to get them prepared to play. Like 2 of them are going to catch a full day and then DH, and then the other 2 are going to DH and then catch a full day to get used to the full game, thing, and then have a day off of catching. At least that's the plan. And then you got to kind of work in, does so-and-so need to catch so-and-so based on reps and fall, and what might be a matchup be, or maybe somebody receives a certain type of pitcher better. So again, it's another deal where we have some sorting out to do.
Just kind of the plan for the arms, who you want to stretch out, who you're looking at as of today. And then I know he's just a freshman, but he came in highly touted. Obviously, William Schmidt from Baton Rouge. Where does he kind of fit in that plan?
Yeah, excited to answer both those questions. Looking at the stretching pitchers out, I believe it's about a group of 8, and stretching out may mean 1 more inning for a couple guys than other guys for a number of reasons. Long-term, development, health, when maybe we want guys, peaking versus who needs to be ready, like right now. But that group, Connor Ware, was probably our best pitcher in the fall from a performance standpoint. He'll fit into that. Kason Evans is another freshman that I'm really, really high on. Zach Cowan, started 120 innings last year at Wofford. Gavin Guidry, we've looked at expanding his pitch count. Kade Anderson, good freshman season last year. Very excited about Kade. He'll be in that group. Anthony Ianson, again, like Zach, threw like 90 or 100 innings at UC San Diego, pitched for Team USA. Obviously Chase Shores, very excited to have him back. A 23-year, I just mentioned you promise adversity. There wasn't a ton of adversity in that. Him going down, was a thunderbolt there, but it really impacted last year. It really impacted last year, especially when you look at, say everything plays out the same. You have Luke Holman, Gage Jump, and Chase Shores. It's a different deal. And so his arm looks great. He's really throwing strikes. Really like where the mindset's at. So that's in no particular order, but that's kind of the grouping of stretching. And then I'll add William to that because you asked about him specifically. He's in that grouping. He's got a lot of talent, obviously, but what I've been more impressed with is the poise, composure, mound presence, readiness. Like he is going to be significant on this team this year, and can be as good as we would want him to be and he wants to be. There's a few specific things we're doing with him that I'm excited about. Coach Yeski has really, pinned some things down, and you obviously see him, sooner rather than later in terms of the course of the season. So,
hey, Coach, in the back, Brett Kemper with LSU Reveille. I was just curious. You mentioned you're not a young team, but you're a new team. Is there a specific message that you guys are kind of focusing in on as you head into opening day?
Yeah, I think, I kind of answered this indirectly when Michael asked, is like, the toughness piece, and again, that's not getting in a fight with somebody unless you need to, but they suspend you for that, so we're not going to condone that. And then togetherness, and kind of centering around those two things, and then execution, like everybody always wants to make sports about everything other than what happens on the field, but it's about execution. And then how do you get to execution where talent becomes usable skill? That's all mindset, and helping young players grow in their mindset. So you kind of have your team bucket there, and then what we need to do on the field, focuses. And so I'd say I wouldn't say it is all centered around that.
Hey, Coach, you've talked about Jared Jones a little bit this offseason and the lack of recognition he's getting. I saw he finally got a preseason All-American nod yesterday. Why should these people that maybe aren't here that often not be sleeping on Jared Jones?
Chris Bryant hit 31 homers in 2013. It's the most I've ever had anybody have. I think Jared hit 28 last year, 29, something like that. 28. That's the second most I've ever had a player hit in a season. And, who knows? Like, I can only control, like, Jay Johnson's brain. And if I try to do any more than that, I'm going to be in real trouble. But it could be anything. It could be maybe some people thought he was going to go out in the draft last year because he was draft eligible and they just missed. It could be that we've had some really generational superstar talent players here. They have got a lot of recognition kind of in front of him, and they deserved it, and maybe that's why it's quiet. I don't know. I'm just really happy, like, the Cleveland Guardians didn't want to draft him, and that he's here. And he really improved a lot last year. And you have to really pay attention if you look, because in the freshman year was very successful. National champion, hit over 300, hit 14 homers. But there were so many good players on that team, 13 pros. I mean, in that year, I think ultimately over 20. There might be 25 by the time it's all said and done of players on that team that are playing professional baseball. So when you're one of 25 and you're a freshman, like, it could be easy to get lost. Last year we won a lot of games because of him. And if you look at the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, games down the stretch, back half of league play, all our opponents know who he is. I know that. So I don't know, but I'm sure happy he's here. I've really enjoyed getting to coach him, in the different phases he's kind of gone through, mentally and physically and baseball skill-wise. I think he's a very underrated first baseman. I mean, as an infielder, I liked those big targets, you could throw to, and he's done a really good job there too. So I'm just happy he's on my team, and that's good enough for me, and I think everybody around here, appreciates who he is and what he brings to the table.
Hey, Coach, I was curious if you could tell me more about Maverick Rizzi. And he's a giant, right? 6'9", like Shores.
Yes.
So what does he bring to this team this year?
Yeah, well, first thing is I got to teach him when I walk out to the mound, he needs to take a couple steps down the mound and let me stand on top. And because one of you, if that doesn't happen, is going to snap a picture and I'm going to look really funny again. All joking aside, he is really, really good. He has a great background. Brother is a pitcher at Bryant University, which is a really good program. Cousin is a Major League Baseball pitcher. And So he has a great background, and he's very mature, comes from a great family. All the physical attributes are there. 6'9", tough to see the ball in terms of how he releases it. Great off-speed stuff, angle on the fastball, movement on the fastball, strikes, most importantly. And like I mentioned with William, and we have 4 freshman pitchers, and I would put them all into this category. They have a mindset poise thing that is uncommon for pitchers of their age. Like all 4 of them at some point will move up the ladder this year because they have the physical talent, they have the mental disposition, to withstand, the challenges that come away or come along the way, and then move up. And Maverick is certainly right at the front of that. So a lot of things make him, really good and important. And yeah, I like those 6'9" pitchers for sure.
Coach Daniel Dickinson transferred from Utah Valley State, home run hitter, stolen bases. I mean, what has he kind of shown you so far?
Yeah, I think he loves baseball first and foremost. And, I probably have said this at some point. You can't like baseball and play here. I mean, it's got to be your deal. Like, your life is built around what happens on a baseball field if you're playing at LSU. It doesn't mean the other things aren't important, because they are, but you kind of got to have that, like, you're waking up with this is your kind of purpose in life right now. Totally has that. I mentioned I gave him number 14 because he reminds me how he plays of Pete Rose, who's like my favorite player of all time. So that gives you a little bit of a snapshot. I think what I appreciate about him is, in a lot of ways, you dig into his story, he's a very self-made player. And, hasn't maybe had all the resources that you have at LSU or coaching, and just kind of grinding it out. He sent me a video hitting over break in Washington, and he's in this barn place, kind of a cage, and his mom's in there feeding a machine. You know what I mean? And I was like, this is Danny, it's probably 18 degrees and raining outside, and he's working at it. Really good athlete, really good physical skills. I'm really happy he's here. He's just one of those guys. Man, if he's on the other team, he probably really bothers you, but you love having him on your team.
Coach, are there a couple other candidates other than Jared who you think might be in that 20 home run range this year?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm excited about the offense in the terms of it's probably more of a sum of the parts thing. And, I felt like we ended up being a good offensive team at the end of last year, but it was a little bit reliant on, Jared and Tommy hitting the ball over the fence, and both of them had 20, but I don't know if there is, to be quite honest with you. I don't know that I want any of them to try to do that. I do think there's guys on the roster that will in their time here at LSU. I don't know if that's this year, but I think there's plenty of guys capable of hitting 8 to 12, and some of that is more predicated on what we do with the personnel. And, you might, what's that line in Moneyball? Like, they're trying to replace Giambi and Johnny Damon, and, like, you can't replace Giambi with one player. You replace him with 3 players. It's maybe what we're doing with Tommy White, and set guys up for success. And I would just say, a long-winded answer is scoring runs. I believe we'll be able to do that, but I believe it will be a sum of the parts as opposed to falling on 1 or 2 players.
I got 3 of them. 2 of them could be rapid fire if you want. But do you have like a Riley Cooper type guy that you could turn to in a pinch? How did Braswell handle the change? And then your outfield, a quarter of your returning players, some of your known quantities, I guess, are there. Does that make it easier, or do you still have a challenge there?
Okay, I'll try to remember all the questions. First one was relative to, do we have somebody like Riley Cooper? That's one of the best pitchers I've had, and how do I gauge that? He pitched in more wins than any pitcher in college baseball in the 3 years he was in college baseball. Probably remains to be seen. I really like some of the pieces. So when I think about him, I think about strikes, I think about competitiveness, I think about reliability. So I mentioned Connor Ware, strikes, really good stuff. So far, a ton of reliability, and I don't anticipate that changing. Case and Evans, we talked about William. We talked about Maverick Rizzi. Case and Evans is a big part of what we're going to be doing here for the next 3 years. He had an outstanding fall, and I think about strikes, I think about competitiveness, and I think about reliability. So those are the first two that kind of come to mind, when you ask that question. Second question was Braswell, as far as, we don't know that that's actually going to happen yet. I respect the job he did playing shortstop for us, particularly the last 25 games of the season, which, we were pretty good the last 25 games of the season. About as good as just about anybody during that stretch. And I thought the way Michael played defense and definitely played offense was a key contributing factor to that. I think, again, as I mentioned with Steven, and this will help both of them, in their pro career as well, is he could probably play any position on the dirt. In his case, including first base. We're not going to have him do that because Jared Jones. But I'm comfortable with Michael at shortstop. I'm comfortable with him at third base. I'd be very comfortable with him at second base. So kind of a remains to be seen. And then the outfield, I think in the last game that we played against North Carolina last year, Josh was in left, Josh Pearson was in left, Jake Brown was in center, and Ashton Larson was in right. Those guys are all back, which is great. We obviously added Chris Stanfield from Auburn. We added Derek Curiel, really good freshman player. You're still looking at Ethan Fry, who's finally healthy, which is great. Mick Paul has played really good, and underrated story. He had a really significant health issue last year that happened during the season, and he was redshirting, and for him to make it back and is pretty remarkable, to be honest with you. So Dalton Beck, who will also figure into DH at bats. Like, I have 8 guys we could play right now out there, and I don't know that there would be much drop off. Is how I feel about it right now. Probably a lot of that will just determine on matchups, time of the year, a lot of things. And so I'm excited about the outfielders. When I mentioned, Coach Jordan and recruiting and some of our efforts here, we've done a really good job with that position. And you should at LSU. And I'm excited about all those guys.
Last year we got a really good opportunity to see what a role like Griffin Herring played for you guys. Not necessarily a starter, but a starter essentially, given how many innings he would eat up for you guys in a weekend. Just, is that a role that you're looking at as maybe like this can be a defining kind of pitcher for us, a guy that maybe we can see maybe not as a weekend starter, but a guy that can come in on a pinch and go 3, 4, 5 innings and give us some really good baseball in the middle? Like, is that something you really want to try to lean into? Is it something you learned from Griffin last year of having how valuable?
Well, I think it's a very undervalued deal, which, like it or not, like, one of our best pitchers is always going to be in the bullpen. And I mean this very sincerely when I say this. Griffin is one of the best pitchers I've ever coached. Ever. Like, ever. Like, a lot of years, a lot of wins and all that stuff. And he did a great job, with that. That grouping of guys that I mentioned we're stretching out, part of it is to have somebody, and hopefully 2, guys well-positioned to do that. And then there's another, bucket of pitchers still sitting there where we're going to train them over the next few weeks to go twice. 1 inning. Like this week, it'll be 1 inning today, 1 inning on Monday. And so, who can bounce back. And all of it has value. Like, everybody wants to start. I don't really know why that's such an important thing, other than I guess you get to see your name, like you're listed. But the most important outs happen from the 7th inning to the 9th inning, and they're the hardest to get, as we know. We had one of the best pitchers in the country on a mound to close out a regional, and we didn't, because it's the hardest to get. I mean, the focus of North Carolina's at bats there in the ninth and the extra innings are at an all-time high. So you have to have one of your best guys there. And it's the ultimate complement of any pitcher. If I'm putting you in during that time, as Kade just walked in, his performance, coming in against North Carolina, full stadium, hadn't relieved a lot. And just to come in and blow their doors off and set it up where we got to Gavin, who's done a phenomenal job, in those situations in his 2 years here. So I think we have some really good candidates. That's why I listed 8 guys. It's not set, and that's okay. I feel good about the direction of having guys that can extend. And the SEC, you got to be really good to get through orders 2 times, let alone 3 times. So then you circle back to what you just asked. That pitcher becomes really important.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Derek there. I think he was in your starting lineup for the first game in Biloxi, if I'm not mistaken. How significant of a role could he have on this team? Kind of similar to what you were saying about, William having a significant impact this year. Could he be in that kind of same boat?
Yes, no question about it. I think what I value more than anything is consistency in quality at bats. Do you take at bats that move the team closer to scoring runs? Again, back to the thing. Score runs, prevent runs. So in dissecting him as a player, this is a freshman coming into a program like this, was easily number 1 on the quality at bat board by significant margin, and provides a lot offensively. He has a really unique ability that you cannot coach to figure it out quickly and make the necessary adjustments. Like if it's off, it gets on the rails again really, really fast. And some of that's ability. He's just a really good baseball player. And on the defensive side, like you mentioned that game, like he made a catch in center field. Like there might not be 5 guys in the country that could have made that play. And then he went over to left field and shifted his hips 3 times and made a play look easy that was not easy. So he falls into that score runs, prevent runs category. And those guys are really valuable. And so, absolutely, yes. Yeah. I'll talk about Josh all day, every day, as long as I'm alive, because he's the only player that this is his 4th year that has been on the roster for 4 years. And, the most significant wins that we've had over 3 years, and it's been a lot, he's been in the middle of a lot of them in terms of his contribution. And, when we talk about, toughness and focusing on the task and overcoming, maybe a difficult stretch where he's not playing as good or maybe not even playing as much as he wants to, and be ready to execute and help LSU win, he's amazing. So he will figure into this thing prominently. There's no shot of him not, frankly. Part of my comfortability going into the season is you have a player that you know what he is, you know what you're going to get. And the best part about Josh is you know what you're going to get at the most important times. And, again, maybe like Jared, somebody that goes overlooked, But I'm a big fan of his, even when he dressed up like me for Halloween. So, and then John, he did an unbelievable job over Christmas break. And what I mean by that is he is in way better shape than he was in the fall. He's very coachable, and I've seen a lot of improvement. I have high hopes for the player that he's going to be here. He's got a really good swing. He's really improved defensively at third base. He's really good at first base. So it's one of those guys I want to have here like Josh, for 3 or 4 years. And they've been raised incredible. Like Bill and Anna, they're unbelievable parents. Like when I think about people from Louisiana and character and, being raised well, top of the list. So I'm a big believer in the Pearsons.
Okay. Hey, Coach, I want to ask you about Champ Ortigues. It's Jay's son, right?
Yeah.
Real good baseball coach at Southeastern. I know you work with him a lot and in Omaha and at the World Series. Just his role with the team and what will he be doing?
Yeah, Champ is our new director of operations. So strength coach and director of operations, we've had a new person every year. So probably a bad boss deal. I don't know. That's an important role, when you think about the things that they have to take care of so that the coaches can focus on coaching, developing the players, and recruiting. And I wanted somebody younger that was motivated, that has been around high standards. Jay was an excellent coach, as all you guys know. And, there's no job that Champ will not accept and then try to take a lot of pride in doing. The stuff that he doesn't know, we're all can teach him that. But that team first attitude, selfless, he's got that, and is going to be a big contributor. And I think he's going to be an excellent coach someday. We'll shift on the game, he'll be in the bullpen, so he'll be on the other end of the walkie-talkie from me as we're preparing to bring the next guy in the game. And as the pitchers know, the guy coming in from the bullpen, it's pitch one. I'm not bringing you in to get two guys from now out. I'm bringing you in to get this guy out. So that role he'll take on game day of just communicating and relaying the message from myself and Coach Yeski is going to be really important.
Going back to the end of last season, kind of specifically in my mind, the A&M game was maybe a turning point where the season turned into a kind of winner stay home kind of thing. You don't go to the postseason. What was one of the things you've learned that's maybe changed the way that you coach in terms of stretching guys out and having those really tough moments over extended periods of time?
Yeah, good question. I think we ultimately ended up being a 2 seed and had actually heard we were second or third on the board of hosting. Now, I don't know if it means that we won the SEC championship game, we'd have hosted. I'm not saying that, but we ended up being okay by a mile. It felt it's hard, man. That first stretch was tough, and there was a number of reasons for that. Nothing here is ever taken for granted, and I don't think that last year's team did that. We actually got off to a very good start last season. Won the Houston College Classic, some really good wins, and then for a few weeks we played teams that were better positioned than us to be successful at that time. But I think what I learned is, if you have the right response to failure, which our players and our team did, it took a little while. It took longer than it should, in my opinion, or that it needs to. Might have cost us the ability to play home baseball because it took us maybe a weekend too long to do that. But if you respond correctly to failure, it's not the failure that anybody remembers, it's the response. And I mentioned it before, I think from the back half of league play on, we were one of the best 4 or 5 teams in the country. And I actually said that while we were going through that stretch. And I think you all probably thought those 12 concussions from 10 years of football caught up with me or something. But I believed it. But it had to happen in a certain order and time. What I will remember about it is everybody made the choice collectively to be positive, to stay with it. They didn't need, to be yelled at, screamed at, cursed at, wake up at 6 a.m. and run laps. They needed to stay with it, and they needed to grow. So in the games, they could respond to failure correctly so it wouldn't be fatal, and then you could come back and then execute the baseball and win, which we won 2 really tough games against Texas A&M, who I believe was number 1 in the country. We did win, 4 of those last 5 series. We did get to the SEC championship game, and I'm telling you, and I don't want to go back to 24 very long, but that was other than losing the national championship game in 2016, losing the regional last year was the hardest loss of my entire career because of the players and what they did from where we were to where we got to. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to get back here, host a super regional, and see what we could do, because I feel like they earned that opportunity.
A lot of outfielders, a lot of left-handers. How many potential DHs do you have, and who are the top ones, you think?
Probably depends on how the rest of it shakes out, which is game to game when I say that. But I'd probably say 7. On the right-handed hitter side, Blaze Priester, again, hard to argue with the at-bats he took in the fall. Ethan Fry does a great job against left-handers. Excited he's healthy now, and he's up towards the top of one of the orders, and want to get it today and want to get him going. And then there's a good, group of left-handers, that a couple guys we haven't mentioned. Ryan Costello is a freshman who I think is going to be a superstar player here. And, when we're talking about mindset, mental disposition, all these boring things, he's got it. And he's got a ton of ability. I don't know anybody on our team hits the ball harder. Maybe Jared, maybe Blaze, but he hits the ball really hard. And think he's going to be a great one. How the outfield shakes out, certainly could be like a Josh Pearson, Larson. I mentioned Dalton Beck. Another player that I'm very high on in terms of how they can help us win is Tanner Reeves. He had a great 2 years in junior college. We'll factor into the infield mix. And, you may see games that are close that we use 15 players in. And I like that. We have to make sure we have them very clear on what they need to do to help the team win and how to do that. And I like to think that's one of my strengths as a coach. And I think this is a team that if the coaches do a good job with that we can put players in a good spot. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Coach Johnson. We'll go ahead and have the players next. We'll start with Kade Anderson. Kade, sophomore left-hander out of Madisonville, Louisiana. Prepped at St. Paul's in Covington in his second year here at LSU. So we'll have Kade up to answer your questions.
Hey, Kade. How's this offseason? What are some pitches you've been sort of working on? Is the slider something you're trying to tinker and just sort of perfect?
Yeah, I think for the benefit of my career and kind of continuing to get better, Coach Yeski and I have picked up a slider and working still on continuing to make it a great pitch. And I think that with the slider, it's going to help out with my fastball. And I think it's been a long journey. I really tried to throw it last year in the spring, and it was a pitch that it doesn't take 2 seconds to figure out. But this offseason, Coach Yeski and I have talked a lot and kind of picked up a pretty good slider that I'm continuing to get better. But I think it's going to be a really good pitch of mine.
Hey, Kade. Obviously an impressive freshman season. You'll be expected to do more for this team this year, I reckon. How have you kind of prepared yourself this offseason to prepare for that?
Yeah, so we have 2 mental strength kind of coaches that we bring along with the staff, and I think that's been a really big part of my kind of continuing to get better. It's just the mental training and mentally preparing for a long season that we had. I kind of got the experience. I didn't really know what it was like, and 56 games for a regular season, it's a long time. And week by week, continuing to kind of get stronger as the year goes on instead of kind of fading out. So I think that's been a really big goal of mine, to continue to mentally get stronger.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of turnover since last year on the pitching staff side of things. Just how have you guys gone about as, kind of a returner on this roster, about just kind of, learning those new guys, picking them up, and just trying to gel as a core, I guess, this offseason?
Yeah, I think Coach Johnson made a point kind of last season that we're going to bring the right kind of guys in, and I think that kind of sets the foundation for a winning team, a championship team. So I think we have a really good foundation of returners coming back that have really set the stone and set the tone of kind of how we're going to go about our business. And props to Jared, guys like that have really stepped up and became captains on this team. And I think everyone looks up to kind of continuing to get better, and I think Jared has done a really good job of that.
What have you seen in the offense so far that, maybe a couple of guys that have stood out to you or just you like their approaches?
Yeah, I think transfer Daniel Dickinson has been a fun guy to watch this season. I think he's got a unique aspect of kind of the way he plays. He can bunt, he can hit home runs, and he just kind of does everything the right way. So I really like his aggressive nature, and it's fun to watch.
Last season being how long it was, coming out of high school. Where did you learn how to handle that, the length of the season? I mean, anybody around you advise you or kind of get you through that and the ups and downs and the length of it, just the tiresome?
Yeah, I think Coach Jeske, he's one of my mentors, and I kind of look up to him. Along with all our teammates that I had last year, kind of the guys that went through it before, guys like Holman and Jump and Thatcher really kind of taught me how it works. And I think at the end of the day, I think experience helps. It's easy once you kind of know how it goes. And it was definitely a long season, but it's nothing I would want to take back for sure.
Kade, with so many new faces at catcher, has any one specific guy, with you specifically, do you have a good rapport with so far early on catching you, or has it kind of been balanced so far?
Yeah, I like all the guys catching me. Honestly, it's good feedback for me, and kind of creating that kind of the bond that pitcher and catcher can really have. So I think just continuing to work with all the catchers, and I think guys like Luis has been a really good dude. He's a senior. He's been through it a couple of times, and continuing to work with him a lot. Guys like Aaron Beatty kind of helping him along with the process of kind of how Thatcher and Holman did for me, just kind of seeing what it's about and showing the experiences of it.
I know there's 3 starters in a weekend rotation, but what does it mean to you guys, the pitchers, to be that Friday night guy if that happens?
Yeah, growing up in Louisiana, it's kind of been my dream, and kind of being the guy that Coach Johnson can go to right out the gate would be, really special. But I think that you got to win every game, and I truly mean that. If I have to close out the Tuesday night game, I'll be ready for it.
Coach mentioned that the freshman pitchers have this kind of unique ability, and I guess they already are very mature, poised. You don't often see that with freshmen, he said. What have you seen from those guys like Kaysen and William and the rest? Yeah, I think kind of going along with what I said, Coach Johnson's brought the right guys in, and they're really really good dudes, and I think that sets the tone for kind of they're capable of being great, and they all have talent. We all know that. That's why they're here. But continuing to kind of move them along with the process and kind of showing them the ways is going to be a really big factor in kind of the generations that kind of move along for here. So,
with this new slider, I assume it's different grip than last year.
Yeah, it's a new grip. I throw a split grip slider.
Okay.
And it's technically called a gyro slider, so it doesn't really move. It just it kind of just spins.
And with this, how important is it to not let this new slider sort of affect the curveball a little bit? Because sometimes you see that where you try to develop one different type of breaking pitch like a slider, and then it affects the stronger breaking pitch. Like, how do you sort of delineate those two things with your approach?
Yeah, so I throw it kind of not necessarily two different slots, but it's kind of like the mindset of it's two different pitches for sure. It's not the same grip, so it's kind of easy to factor and split the two for sure.
Hey, Kade, you guys have obviously been working all summer, all fall. What do these next 3 weeks mean in terms of jockeying for position, starting, and just the excitement of, hey, we're going to play a game in 3 weeks?
Yeah, it means a lot, and I think at the same time it's a battle, and people got to win spots at the end of the day, and I think whoever comes out on top, we got depth. I think we got 3 teams that can truly win a national championship, if I had to say so. And so I think that goes to show you the kind of guys that Coach Johnson's brought in, and we'll be ready when the season comes.
I think you were in here when Jay was talking about what that UNC series loss meant to him, and because of the work you guys put in. Do you, as a team, use that as motivation at all, and kind of where you all finished last year, short of the Supers?
Yeah, I think I would be lying if I say I didn't use it as motivation. And it was a tough part in my career, honestly, and kind of not being able to play in a super regional, which I've like dreamed of. So I think, yeah, using it as a chip on my shoulder, but definitely moving along. Like I'm not going to hold it against myself, and I think this season will kind of show that we can bounce back for sure.
Kade, this year's your draft year, actually. How did that sort of affect your? How do you sort of view that heading into this offseason, this season, and how did you sort of work through that this offseason?
Yes, sir. I haven't thought about it at all. I'm just continuing to kind of get better and mentally get stronger. And if that time comes, it comes. But I'm looking. I want to be here for 10 years if I could. So honestly, I don't really care about it too much. So thank you. Thank y'all.
All right, guys, next we'll bring up junior first baseman Jared Jones. Jared, as you guys noted earlier this week, named a first-team preseason All-American by D1 Baseball. So we'll bring up the native of Marietta, Georgia, entering his third year here with the Tigers. Jared Jones.
Yeah, Jared, I guess just kind of the process of coming back this year and what you feel like you've really worked on and improved on this offseason to become that player that you feel like you can be. What has that process been like for you?
Yeah, I think it started, right at the end of last year in the regional loss to North Carolina. Got home, hung out with my family for a little bit, kind of reconnected with them. And then it was right back to work preparing for, what was either going to be, professional baseball or another year at LSU. After the draft process, came and went, and I decided to come back to LSU, moved back down. I'm living with Monster Milam, so it's me and him together in a house, and, I've just been here ever since, just hitting in the cages, working defensively at first base, really trying to work on swing decisions, plate discipline, and just, being a consistent player day in and day out.
With there being a ton of less room to work with in foul territory now, how have you sort of tried to adjust that? I know they were kind of doing construction during the fall. Like, have you sort of figured out how to deal with that defensively?
We haven't had too much practice with it yet because obviously they just officially got it almost 100% done. So we haven't played too much, with the new boundaries, I guess you would call it. But I think, as long as the catchers and my dugout does a good job communicating with me on, how much room I have to go over there, I think I'll be all right.
I'm not sure how much you care about this or not, but the preseason recognition, I think you probably expect more. I think we expect that you would get more. Do you care about that at all, and does it motivate you to prove any doubters you might have wrong?
No. I wasn't the highest rated guy coming out of high school. I was ranked somewhere. I wasn't the I've been on great teams my whole life, whether that was in travel ball or high school. I've had an older brother who taught me what humility meant, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be at LSU, to put on this uniform, to wear these colors, and that's what really matters to me. And the rankings and who I am as a player by myself really doesn't have any effect on me. It's just kind of what we do as a team and the year that we have together.
I think you heard Kade, use the phrase, the guys that Jay brought in a couple of times. You've seen enough LSU baseball. What does this team look like to you, and do you feel like it has the right makeup?
Absolutely. I think Coach Johnson has a line that he says a lot, that winning will never be more important to the team in the other dugout than it is to us. And I truly believe that this year we have the right group of guys that are competitive, talented, athletic, fast, powerful. And we've done a really good job of coming together this fall and early spring, and we will continue to build that rapport with one another and the camaraderie, and just take that into the season one day at a time.
Yeah, what part of your game did you feel like you developed the most last year? And then going into this year, what did you feel like this is where I need to take another jump?
Yeah, definitely. I think plate discipline and swing decisions was great for me. Moving through the year last year, I think I got better for sure, as far as just being a consistent player with that too, as well as taking my walks, working the count. This year it's going to be, just another level of that, how much more can I walk? How many more extra base hits can I have? Moving the offense with 2 strikes, cutting down on my swing and miss. It's easier said than done. It's going to take a lot of work, but those are definitely, some of the things that I've highlighted.
Jared, it's probably a little cliche to say, but have you noticed a difference in this offseason being the hunter versus last season being the hunted with you and your teammates?
Yeah, that's a great question. My freshman year, I was super blessed. We won a national championship. Not everybody gets it that easy their first year. And Kade Beloso actually told me that after the national championship when we were kind of like celebrating and wrapping things up. He was like, remember this, because it doesn't happen like this every year. And the way things ended last year definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. And for the 12 guys or so that are back on the team from that last year's team, we've talked a lot about it. It's definitely a motivating factor for us. And we're just going to use that as fuel and kind of just take it one day at a time.
Jared, a lot of changeover on the roster, a lot of new players. How important is team chemistry, everyone getting to know each other, morphing as a team these next 3 weeks before you start playing?
It's everything. We've got 56 games in the regular season with each other, and that's all we're guaranteed, And sometime in July, the season will come to an end, and I'll never be able to put on the uniform with some of these guys that I've put on a uniform with for 3 years. And the closer that we are together, the more together that we can be, the tougher we are together, the better we will play, the more confidence we'll have on the field, and the better outcomes we'll be able to produce.
What have you seen from Daniel Dickinson? I know he hasn't been here long, but what do you see on the dirt and offensively as well from him?
Yeah, just a super confident guy. I think one of the tougher kids on the team. He's been through a lot. He's from the West Coast, so obviously him and I grew up, very different, with me being from Marietta, Georgia, and him being from Washington. But he's come in, he's worked his butt off. He knows he belongs here, and we all know it as well. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to see somebody who's very tough, plays 100% every play, no matter what.
So it's before your time, but are you familiar with Eddie Furness's career here?
I am.
Okay. Y'all got kind of a similar build. Is that a guy you've known about for a while?
It's not, honestly. I wasn't from Louisiana, so obviously LSU baseball was something I had to learn about and was new to me going through the recruiting process. And since I've been here, I've met a ton of past players and a ton of great people and great human beings. And, I just try to represent them in the right way and respect what they left here at LSU and do the same and just build off of that.
Did you meet him?
I have not met him yet.
Still some decisions to be made as far as who plays third, second, and shortstop. What's your perspective been like over the fall and the early portion, I guess, of the winter here, of how those guys are looking at the different positions?
Yeah, I think depth, is going to be huge for us this year. I think Kade Anderson hit on it. We've got 3 teams that could probably go out there and compete at a very high level. That goes all the way to 18-year-old freshmen all the way to 23-year-old seniors. So we have a very diverse lineup, a very depthy team, and whoever's in those positions, they know that that's their job for that day, and they're going to go out there and give it their all.
Kade had mentioned you kind of developing into a leadership role. I'm wondering, is that something you took stock in returning and realized that was something you're going to have to do, or is it just kind of coming naturally?
A little bit of both. Like I've hit on it before, I'm the youngest of 5, so I've got 4 older siblings, and I've kind of got to learn through them and their experiences. I was always in high school, one of the better players on my team, so it was always people looked at me to be more of a leadership role. And I care a lot about this sport and this university, and so for me, any way that I can help somebody going through something that I've been through, lean on somebody when I need to, just being a good human being and being a good teammate day in and day out.
Obviously, a lot of turnover with the pitching staff. Does that help you, I guess, going back to the fall, facing a bunch of new guys for the first time, because it's going to be what you're seeing a lot in the springtime? Just talk about that, and then just maybe some of the guys that have really stood out to you on the mound that you faced.
Yeah, I think we have a fantastic staff. Absolutely, it helps me a lot. I don't know if I've had a very successful fall here since I've been at LSU. They've pretty much owned me for the 3 years that I've been here, and a lot of credit to them. Coach Yeski's been here for the past 2 years working with them, and they've grown a lot in those 2 years. And then obviously with the new guys who, like guys like Connor Ware, Anthony Ianson, who are, both transferred in, didn't know what to expect out of them, had heard great things, and then for them to live up to that, it's really awesome to see.
What's Monster like as a roommate?
At first, it was a little hectic. We have 3 dogs with us as well. So, a couple times we came home from practice, things had been chewed up or, all messy all around the house. So we had some cleaning up to do, but it's been great. And, I love him, and I'm really excited to be playing another season with him.
Coach compared the situation with the offense to Moneyball, where, Tommy White leaving, you can't just replace him with one guy. Who are some players that you think could surprise us and be good power hitters for you this year to replace some of those home runs?
Yeah, that's a great baseball movie. It's one of my favorites. I would say Blaze Priester obviously is a guy that stood out to everybody on the team, led the team in home runs in the fall, hit one already in live at-bats last week. So he's a guy that I think everyone's going to have an eye on for us. Fourth-year player in college, has been around the game for a long time, super mature, and goes about his business the right way. Luis Hernandez, I think he'll probably get a good bit of time behind the plate. And if not, probably a good bit of time at DH. He swings the bat really well, plays with, a high motor and a lot of confidence. And, John Pearson, a guy who obviously his older brother Josh has been here for 4 years, and he looks up to him, and, that's his guy, and he's going to be here and wants to play for LSU. It means a lot to him to be here, and I think he's going to have a really successful career.
I asked Coach about Maverick. You're a big guy. What's it like to go up against a 6'9" guy on the mound? You've had with Chase, right? But what does this guy bring to the team as a freshman?
Yeah, he's been spectacular for us in the fall so far and throughout the spring, and I'm looking forward to seeing him grow in his career and his role here. He is a very, very big guy. There's not often times I have to look up to people, and him and Chase are 2 of the bigger people I've met in my life. Very similar on the mound, sinker baller type pitchers, throw very hard, get down the mound, big bodies, and one, it's intimidating. It's like facing Randy Johnson or something. And 2, he's just a very competitive human being. He's got an edge to him on the mound, and he's really going to get after it and compete. Thank you.
All right, next at the podium is Michael Braswell, of course, our starting shortstop last year. Had a very productive year for the Tigers in his first year, back for his senior year. Michael Braswell III.
Michael, how are you?
Doing good, man. How about you?
Pretty good. Coach has already talked about Steven potentially moving to the left side of the infield. Have you talked about that with him, and what do you think that may be like, whether it's you at short or you at third, or vice versa between you two?
Yeah, we talked about it, and Steve's a great infielder, obviously, as you probably know, great infielder. So, whether it's at short or third, I really honestly don't care, quite frankly. And either way, I just want to help the team win, and if that's at third base, it's at third base. If that's short, it's at short, and Stevie thinks the same way. So either way, it doesn't matter.
You had some big moments last year and throughout your career. What does it mean to be somebody that this year's team is going to lean on and look to, and maybe a tough moment?
It means a lot because I went through a lot of ups and downs last year. Beginning of the season didn't really start the way I wanted it to, and kind of started to come on towards the end of the season. But this year, I think I'm ready for it. Second year, I'm comfortable at the box. I love it here. So I think this is gonna be my best year yet. So.
Hey, Mike, I got 2 for you. The first one's just a quick one. I saw you playing some second in Biloxi. Are you still experimenting there at all?
Wherever Coach wants me to play, in that lineup card, wherever I'm at, I'll play. But, he hasn't really told me anything about playing second base, so I don't really know.
Okay, no problem. And then, especially the back half of the season, your offense really picked up.
Yeah.
What changed for you, and how have you continued to kind of fine-tune those things to continue that hot streak?
It was a couple things, obviously the mental side of it, it was my first season at the box, and, when it got started rough in the beginning of the season, I kind of wasn't in the right mental space at the plate and really in the field either. And then also, I got healthier towards the end of the season. I was dealing with knee tendonitis in my knees, and towards the back end, after we had a week off towards the playoff time and towards the SEC tournament, then started to heal up and then started to play my best ball. So, I think that will bode well for this season. So,
Michael, you'd obviously come from to your left in the back here.
Yeah, my fault.
You'd obviously come from a program that won national championships and pretty big program. But I remember you saying, "Hey, this is LSU. I'm gonna see what it is." Was there a moment last year? It's like, "Oh, this is LSU now," and are you better ready for it this year?
Yeah, I mean, opening day, really. I mean, it's LSU. The best fan base in the country, as we know, and just being there opening day kind of was a shock for me. And hey, I was blessed to do it. So, yeah, definitely opening day for me.
Mike, you've seen a lot of ball. You're seeing a lot of new faces this year, right? I guess just how important is the chemistry now that you're a little bit older, to understanding that builds success on the field? And how much are you guys really working towards that piece of the game?
I think that's one of the most important parts of a winning team and a winning program, honestly, is everybody holding themselves accountable and picking each other up and, being great with each other, honestly. And, I feel like this year's team has great chemistry, honestly. I feel like all the guys in the lineup and all the guys who aren't going to be in the lineup are pretty good with each other, pretty cool with each other, and we all pick each other up when we're down. So I feel like the chemistry is really important.
You'll have one new teammate in the infield. It seems like that'll be Daniel Dickinson in some capacity somewhere. What's your relationship like with him? How have you kind of molded that over the past couple months? And what kind of a player is he?
I've had a great relationship with Danny Dickinson. A hard worker, one of the hardest workers on the team, and a great ball player. All around solid player. And I feel like he's going to provide a lot for us this year offensively and on the defensive side at wherever he plays, wherever Coach Johnson puts him. And I feel like he's just a great player, great teammate.
Coach mentioned this somewhere, but I think you mentioned how what they're working on with Chris Stanfield as a hitter, similar to what they tried to do with you last year. Yeah. Have you talked about that with Chris a little bit, and have you helped him out with some of that stuff?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Chris is a different type of player than I am, though. I mean, he's way faster than I am. So, So I mean, like I said, coming from Auburn, he had some offensive changes that he would like to make, and he was just as open as I was to the hitting changes, and I think he's in for a big season this year. So, I mean, we definitely talked about it and tried to help him out. He's one of my best friends on the team, so definitely try to make sure he's on the right path with the hitting mechanics.
Coach Johnson was talking about the maturity of this freshman class and how it's pretty unique, whether it's pitchers or fielders, hitters, whatever. What from your perspective, what have you seen from these freshmen going back to the fall, and just a couple of guys maybe that you've gotten to know a little bit and think will play big roles for this team?
I mean, being in college for 4 years, I mean, I'd have to say this is probably the most talented freshman class that I've been around. I mean, like I said, every one of them has a chance to be a major contributor on a national championship team. And I was even telling guys in the locker room, like, dude, if you guys improve and make sure you'll get better over 3 years, this freshman class can win a national title. And I genuinely believe that. And there's a lot of future stars on the freshman class. I mean, obviously Derek Curiel, he's a great player, great all-around player. Kade Beatty, great player as well. And then another guy is Ryan Costello, a guy that probably people don't talk about as much, but I mean, dude, he's in there killing the ball in the cage, just killing the ball in the game, live ABs. I mean, he's going to be a really good player too. So this freshman class is definitely elite. I'd say that.
You touched on the freshman class facing William Schmidt. What do you see from him on the mound?
I mean, plus stuff all around. I mean, I was in Baton Rouge over the summer when they were trying to get him to campus, and not too many people thought he was going to make it. But I mean, hey, happy to have him, but hate to face him. One of those type things. So, curveball, elite. Fastball, upper nines. So I mean, hey, he's have a bright future and definitely a potential first rounder. 3 years, in my opinion.
What do you like about Coach Martin, the strength coach's program, and what have you most gotten out of his philosophy?
I mean, Coach Martin has helped me in a lot of ways, man. Going into the summer, my goal was to build up weight and try to get strong and get stronger. And he helped me do that when he got here. And then we got into the fall. My goal was to lose, I believe, I was 215 at one time. And then he wanted me to get down to 205 in that range. So he helped me get down there and just bringing the major league mentality to the to the locker room and to the weight room. Like when you have a guy that's been around big leaguers and been around all-stars and has a World Series ring, his what he tells you kind of hits a little different. So, hits harder. So, yeah, he's definitely been a great guy to be around, great person, and a great coach.
How much experience do you have at third, and how much more, and if not, then how much more reps do you need to get to feel very, very comfortable with just the hot corners? The angles are just so different over there.
I have a little experience at third base, At Carolina, my sophomore year, I kind of played there a little bit when I first started getting in, and, and I feel pretty comfortable there now. I feel comfortable everywhere, honestly, but, third base is definitely a great spot to be, and coach is giving me reps there continuously. Like, we all kind of work around. He kind of moves everybody around a little bit, and, me at third base and short. So, I'm getting more reps every day, and I feel like I'm getting comfortable over there more and more by the day. So.
Speaking of Carolina, you guys are going to South Carolina to close out the regular season. Did that spark anything? We saw the schedule, or is it just professional? Keep going.
You can't help but feel a little way when you're going back to a place you were at for 2 years. But honestly, now it's more professional. Like, I kind of already got the emotional part of it out the way with the last year's SEC tournament and everything. Now it's just handle business and go in there and try to win. So, well, not try to win, but win. So.
You kind of found your power stroke at the end of last season.
Yeah.
What did you sort of find mechanically that opened that up, and how do you sort of continue that into next season to go along with the stuff you've already done with Chris?
Like I said, a lot of it was, if I'm being completely honest, a lot of it was just health for me. Like I said, I had knee tendonitis in both my knees, and I couldn't really load back into my backside at all, so I couldn't stick anything. So I was just punching Judy's singles and hopefully get a double type of thing. But, towards the end, I just kind of just got my legs under me and, started to drive the ball more. And I believe that I can carry that into the season. So.
Real quick, is that bothering you at all still, or is that all kind of in the past?
Oh, no. I've kind of changed my workload a little bit to, kind of make it easier on my legs and everything. And I think that this year will be one of my best years yet. So. Both of them. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Sorry about that. How y'all doing?
Hey, Gavin, what was the class?
I was in a kin class. Yeah, started at 11, got out about 10 minutes ago. So sorry for making y'all wait.
No, you're good. I was just curious. In terms of the process of trying to lengthen you out this year, get you up to, starter innings, multiple innings. How much at the end of last season and like that 4-inning appearance against Louisiana Tech help you sort of figure out what works best for you to get into that space where you're physically prepared to pitch, 4 or 5 innings?
Yeah, that was probably the exact outing that me and the coaches kind of looked back at after the season to just kind of look at and realize, that I could do it and really extend. Helped me convince them that I could extend and potentially start here. And then, just going into the summer, working on the changeup. The changeup worked really well that night. And then just commanding the fastball, taking the velo up on the fastball, getting stronger from July to now, adding some weight to where I'm more physical and be able to hold the velo, hold the stuff throughout an outing.
What goes into the mindset as far as, why? Why do you want to be a starter here? You have such a defined, or had such a defined role that you were really excelling at, right? So what made you want to change?
Yeah. Multiple things made me want to go down that path, but one of them is just versatility. If you're built up and you have the stamina to pitch 7 innings, it's very easy to peel back and kind of go back into a closer role where I'm throwing an inning or two a weekend. That would never be an issue if I'm built up and physical enough to be a starter. So being a closer and having the short innings is kind of like a fallback plan where it'd be easy to go back into that role. But, just really not trying to limit myself this year. even, you know, if I was to slide into a role like Griffin was last year where he's throwing a lot of innings, chewing up a lot of innings out of the pen, really just trying to open it up and do whatever the team needs me to do. And there wouldn't be any limitations to it.
I'm sure if you entered the portal, you would have had opportunities, you know, maybe guaranteed opportunities to start at other programs. What made you maybe want to come back and continue to, you know, hammer it out here and see if you can accomplish that as a Tiger?
Yeah. I mean, there was never really an option of going anywhere. This is where I came out of high school. I wasn't running from any kind of competition or any kind of challenges. You know, I chose here because it was the best place in college baseball to play baseball. And, you know, when you commit to a place like this, you're also committing to the challenges that come with it. And, you know, in a time of college sports where kind of transferring is like the easier thing, and not that it's necessarily a bad thing if people do transfer. I think that also gets kind of a bad rap sometimes. But I think it's easier to transfer at times, and I think sticking it out in the long run is going to help me. Even if I don't get what I want now, I think it's going to help me in the long run in professional baseball.
Gavin, how would you describe your first 2 years? Like a while ago, Jared said, hey, I'm a freshman. I win a national championship right out of the box, you know, and then real good team last year that came up a little bit short. But how would you kind of digest the first 2 years being here and what you need to do moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of prepared for everything now, right? I've gone through a lot in the last 2 years as a individual and as a team. I've experienced playing with like the best team you could possibly play for, right? Just loaded with talent, loaded with dudes. Freshman class was loaded. The juniors were loaded. We had fifth-year guys who were really good. And so I've been able to be a part of a team that knew how to navigate that and kind of the blueprint. And then I've also been part of a team who was really good and struggled really like a lot throughout conference play. And then we were able to come out on the back end of it. So I've been able to go through that now. And then going into year 3, it's just kind of having those experiences under my belt. And, you know, whatever we face this year, trying to help the guys that haven't been through it get through it. Because there's always, you're going to come in on the other side of it for sure.
Just being a Louisiana kid, getting to wear number 8, I guess, for this program, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, it means everything to me. Guys like Mikey Matuk and all the guys that have worn it before me. And just what it resembles as an LSU baseball player, being the guy where you're kind of in the locker room and your job is just to show up with the mentality of an LSU baseball player. You know, that's like my job of wearing number 8, in my opinion. It's not to be the leader or me to tell people what to do or make sure guys are looking at me. It's my job is to show up every day, not make excuses, show up every day and compete my tail off and set an example for the younger kids on what that looks like.
Not sure what you've been able to see from him because he's only been here for basically a semester. But William Schmidt, just physically, mentally, or even around the locker room, what have you seen from the freshman?
Yeah. I mean, Schmidt's going to be legit. Just loaded with talent. The stuff is off the charts. Obviously, I mean, he's a freshman. You know, he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to grow. And, yeah, as long as he's open to that, it's going to be a really, really fun 3 years for y'all to watch, for sure.
Physically, how have you gone about preparing going into this sort of larger role this offseason?
Yeah. Started off, I mean, pretty much right when the season ended, whenever we had the conversations with me and Coach Johnson and Coach Yeski about potentially extending and potentially starting. And it just went straight into, I went to Arizona for about a month and a half, 2 months to go train at Driveline, to go figure some things out mechanically, to start moving more efficiently. It was a strength program. I went through multiple blocks, different goals. Some of them were, you know, power-based, trying to create more force. Some of them were to build stamina. Some of them were to move faster, be more explosive, just different things. And, yeah, I mean, really just a 6, 7, 8 month window of opportunity is the way I looked at it. You know what I mean? There was a lot of time to grow, a lot of time to get better, and it was just about diving in and figuring out what I could do to get better.
Daniel Dickinson, home run hitter, can hit it all over the yard. We've heard that he's pretty aggressive, but facing him in the box, what is it like going up against him?
Yeah, me and Danny are really, really close, really good friends. We hang out at my girlfriend's house pretty much every single night and cook dinner over there and hang out. So he's really, really fun to be around, really good dude. And yeah, I would say that his personality on the baseball field is very similar to mine, just as a position player, not a pitcher. I mean, he shows up to the field to win and to compete. There's no fear when he's playing. He's not playing standoffish by any means at all. And I mean, it's going to be fun to watch this year. I can't wait because it's kind of what I told Jamie and Coach Johnson this at the beginning of the fall, was like him as a player is kind of like what I wanted to be as a position player when I was here. And then obviously like it didn't work out for me. I get to pitch now. But it's going to be fun to watch because that's just kind of how I saw myself playing as an LSU Tiger. So being able to sit in the dugout or pitch and have him behind me and watching him compete is going to be really fun for me.
If you move into more of that extended innings role, you know, you might need a guy to step into that closer kind of spot, especially in the Friday, Saturday games, whatever it is. Are there any people that have kind of flashed that could serve in that kind of position if need be?
In what role?
Like closing the game, the last inning or two?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Schmidt's one of them for sure. Just throws really hard. The breaking balls wipe out. It's not a lot of times where you see a freshman come in and just have a put-away pitch at the level that his is. Kason Evans is another one. I know it's naming off two freshmen, which it's usually a role that is not handed to freshmen. But Kason Evans is another one. Throws hard, has a wipeout slider, wipeout changeup. Really competitive kid. I mean, I don't want to limit anybody to a certain role or put any tags on anything. It's not really my job. Just from the position that I've been in before and kind of having a good relationship with Coach Johnson. Those are two guys that really stand out to me for sure, just the way their stuff is and how they compete.
When you take the mound, your presence is, I think, felt by all as very domineering, very powerful. What kind of goes into your mindset when you take the mound and then when you're battling with a guy at the plate? Maybe he's taking a bunch of foul balls. What goes through your mind when you're battling with somebody at the plate?
Yeah, just not giving in. That's the biggest thing, not giving in. Kind of stepping up to the challenge. You prepare a lot for 12 months out of the year. Really, every single day it's a grind to get to go out there and compete. And in my opinion, real competitors, guys who really love to compete, don't really like things being easy, especially on the field. I love a challenge. I love whenever dudes are up there competing against me, giving me their best shot. So whenever dudes are fighting like that, it's fun for me.
With your velocity and shape of the fastball, how's that improved since the end of last year?
Yeah. I would say the shape of my fastball was always pretty good. Always had pretty good amount of carry on it and was able to pitch up in the zone with it. It was really, for me, more about taking the velo up, which it's ticked up some, and then commanding it better was always the thing for me going into this year. Being able to pitch up in the zone and keep it at the top of the zone and just control my misses better, keep it all around the strike zone, and just be able to pitch ahead in counts with it and be able to go to it like above the zone with 2 strikes, just being able to really use it whenever I wanted.
So Gage had Tommy John surgery, came back, had a pretty remarkable season last year. Chase is now in that same position, and there's no guarantee coming back from an injury that you'll come back and dominate. Do you see kind of similarities, though, at this point, leading into the season, that he could do some of those same things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Shores works really, really hard. I mean, obviously, y'all got to see him pitch for a little bit his freshman year. Super gifted. The stuff is off the charts. The character's really, really good. Character's off the charts. Great teammate. And, I mean, it's an easy guy to root for, honestly, just being in the locker room with him. The way he handled his injury from the inside. I know y'all didn't get to really be around it that much, but the way he handled it, in the dugout whenever he wasn't playing, it's something that's really hard and really difficult to handle. And I mean, he never flinched really from the day that it happened. He was always on the top step, rooting guys on whenever he couldn't play. And yeah, I mean, like you said, there's always a kind of a mystery coming back. But I mean, he's looked amazing every outing throughout the fall. The stuff's coming out really well. You know, throwing strikes. He's working on some stuff, trying to improve, obviously. But I mean, I think he's in a great position going into the season for sure.
How much does Coach Yeski coming back help the staff, right? Like we've seen new coach. How much are you guys able to maybe take that next step because he's not, breaking in a new message?
Yeah. I would just say consistency, right? That's probably the biggest thing when it comes to college athletes or just really trying to be an elite athlete is being able to be consistent. I mean, I would say kind of seeing the same faces every day is kind of the same thing, hearing the same messages, hearing it being talked about and said in the same ways, the same language, you know what I mean? Every coach has a different language, and just being able to have the same language 2 years in a row and hearing Coach Yeski say the same things, and, you kind of get a better understanding of what he's talking about going into year two. And, yeah, I mean, just being able to go from the beginning of last year to getting better throughout the season and then not having to kind of reset, right? Being able to build off of the end of last year and going into this year is definitely a big help for sure.
A lot of right-handed arms for you guys and that staff this year. How important is it has Yeski made an emphasis to really develop your changeups or some sort of other pitch to combat all these potential left-handed hitters you guys are going to be facing as righties?
Yeah, for sure. We do. We are a really heavy right-handed pitcher as a staff. But I would say that at the same time, it's a very deep staff. It's a very we have, I mean, I don't know the exact number, like 21, 22 guys, something like that. But everyone's really, really different. We have a lot of guys who can sink the ball. We have some guys with really, really power change-ups, which I don't know if we had really anybody that had, I would say, like a power change-up, like a punch-up pitch as a change-up last year. We have multiple guys with those this year. We have guys that throw cutters, firm cutters. We have guys that throw big sweepers, big curveballs, sliders. I mean, really just kind of everything across the board. And then obviously the 4 or 5 lefties that we do have thrown really, really well this fall. And then going into the spring, they've looked really good. So those 4 or 5 guys are going to be big for us in the staff. And then, I mean, like I said, the right-handed arms really developing changeups is going to be big for us as well.
Just in the fall and early stuff here, anybody giving you troubles at the plate as far as their approach, and who's kind of stood out to you?
Yeah. I would say, so we've only had one live AB session, and then we're starting this weekend in the inter squads. But, I mean, I would say in the fall, Derek Curiel was tough, really, really good hitter. He wasn't super dangerous as far as power goes. It's just every single pitch he was on. He never missed a pitch. He didn't chase, and then if you made a mistake, he made you pay. You know what I mean? Like he going to hit a line drive in the gap. He was going to hit a ball in the barrel. It seemed like every time he swung, it was on the barrel. So he's one, and then Jake Brown is another one. A guy for me that I faced in the fall, and I can think of 2 at-bats where like he got a hit off of me, and I kind of like after the pitch just scratching my head on like how I throw an 0-0 changeup to lead a game off in one of the outings, an 0-0 changeup, first pitch of the game, and he hit a double, and I was just like, all right, like that's insane to me that he hit an 0-0 changeup for a double. So just things like that. I mean, really good athlete, really adjustable. So it's gonna be fun to watch this year.
From a catching standpoint, does it feel like you have more depth this year? I know last year Brady was injured for some of the season, so it was really Alex and Hayden, and not really sure after that. Does it feel a little bit more stable this season?
Yeah, I would say that the catchers, there's a lot of tools back there, a lot of different kind of guys. You have Aaron Beatty, who's a freshman, who's completely tooled out. You have big bats. You have dudes who can really hit, dudes who can really catch. They all have good arms. And then just building a relationship with all 4 of them, has really been the biggest thing. They've really, just from being 4 new guys, they've really done a good job throughout the fall of wanting to catch bullpens and asking us, when we're throwing to reach out to us and help us get our work done so that they could build a relationship with us and get closer to us and understand kind of how our process works and everything. And I think those 4 guys are going to be rotated throughout the season, and all 4 of them are going to play a vital role in this team for sure. Thank y'all.